So, world, we still got the Gemini season rolling, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how the Geminis relate with every sign. Let's start off with Geminis and other air signs. Now, of course, Gemini will most likely get along with their fellow air signs, but let's just see how well they get along, starting with a Gemini and another Gemini. Now, of course, they're gonna get along very well, but usually, if their vibrations are similar, or if they have similar energy, or if they just have a lot in common, because if they're two completely different Geminis with completely different energies and vibrations, then they will not get along, because Geminis can be very shallow people, so they can pretend to get along with you or just say what they need to say to get along with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they consider you a friend or somebody close to them. Okay, so for two Geminis to work, they will have to be on similar vibrations or just have a lot in common where they're doing a lot of similar things. Their logic and their rationale is on the same level. But if their logic and their rationale is on completely two different ends of the earth, then these Geminis will not get along. Now let's talk about a Gemini and a Libra. A Gemini and Libra will relate very well. Gemini is just gonna be a lot more shallow than the Libra. Libra will appreciate more of a one-on-one connection. All right, they like to take their relationship a little serious. So if the Gemini is not serious about that Libra, then that relationship is not gonna work well, because Geminis tend to be, like I said, tend to be shallow and superficial with their relationship. So as long as the Libra is somebody that they consider close to them or consider having a real relationship with, then that's how this will be a strong relationship. All right, now let's go to the Geminis and Aquariuses. A Gemini and Aquarius will have a decent relationship together if the Gemini likes to keep up with the Aquarius's viewpoints or their standpoint in humanity, right? So if they have kind of like another Gemini, if they're vibing on the same level, then they really will get along very well. Okay, the Geminis and the Aquarius will get along much easier than a Gemini and a Libra, right? So this is really how the Geminis relate with all air signs. All right, next we got the water signs. So how well do the Geminis relate with the water signs? Not as good as the air signs, but let's start off with the Geminis and Cancers. Geminis and Cancers can get along very well as long as the Cancer feels comfortable with the Gemini, okay? Because not Cancers, like I said, are very sensitive, caring people. They're really not big on being superficial and shallow. They really like close, comfortable connections, okay? So if the Gemini can match that energy, make the Cancer feel comfortable around them, then possibly this could be a good relationship. But most likely it's gonna be a long-term relationship, because the Geminis just don't have the energy to provide comfort to the Cancer long-term. Okay, so and the Cancer most likely not gonna have the energy to just be logical and rational about everything. All right, they're very emotional people. Okay, so most times these relationships will be short-term. But if the Cancer is comfortable with the Gemini, if it's a really sophisticated Cancer, then this could be a good, strong, long-term relationship. Now let's go to Geminis and Scorpios. Kind of similar. If the Geminis and Scorpios, for them to have a strong relationship, the Scorpios will have to be big on just being rational and logical most of the time. Okay, they're very passionate, so that energy, that passionate energy, could keep up with how much fun the Gemini likes to have. Geminis like to move around and just stay active, but also they need logic and rationality to be there, right? And sometimes these Scorpios do struggle with that when it comes to being rational. They just very deep into their own emotions. So the relationship with a Cancer will probably work better than a Scorpio, but they're gonna have similar issues as a Cancer. And now let's move to the Pisces. They may have similar issues as well, but I think the Pisces will have the best relationship with the Geminis, just because the Pisces are also people that are very much invested in their friends, okay, invested in other people, right? Another mutable sign. So the Pisces and Gemini will get along much better, because the Pisces, are a little more sensitive and caring about the other people's point of view, or emotional space. Okay, so they're a little more considerate than the other water signs. So this will lead them to have a better relationship with the Gemini because they're gonna try to understand the Gemini a little more than the other water signs. Okay, so they'll work best with the Pisces, the Geminis, but overall they're not really good with water signs. Now we got the Geminis and fire signs. Now Geminis actually get along very well with fire signs, so let's go ahead and start off with the Geminis and Leos. Now these two actually make a great team because the Leos are all about being loved and appreciated, and Geminis are all about interacting with other people. So as long as the Leos love that interaction they're getting from the Geminis, then these two make a solid team. Okay, the Geminis just love to communicate and just receive news on whatever is getting attention. Okay, and the Leos are all about whatever is getting attention or them receiving attention. Okay, so this is really where they make a strong bond. Okay, they love to talk about and be around whatever is getting attention. Now let's go to the Geminis and the Sagittarius. Gemini and Sagittarius are also another strong bond if they're vibrating similar, right? If they're on the same energy level, or if they have a lot in common, then these make one of the strongest team in all signs, simply because they both like to teach about either real wisdom or just real information. Okay, real wisdom being the Sag, the real information being the Gemini. So as long as they are both similar, or both have a passion for these things, then they're gonna get along very well. But they're both on completely different sides of the earth, or just on just completely different vibrations, then this will not work because they're gonna be completely off balance. All right, Gemini is the opposite of Sagittarius. They work because they really want the same things but with different results. Okay, so basically their relationship is going to be based on how balanced they are. If they're very balanced, then they're going to have one of the strongest relationships. All right, now let's move to the Gemini and Aries. Now their relationship works well if they like to do the same things. Aries are all about what they could do, the actions that they take. So if those Geminis, if the Gemini loves to do those same things, then these two make a great bond because they both are very action-oriented people, and they both are very spontaneous people as well. So this is where they get along, right? And this is why the Geminis work very well with the fire signs. But out of all of them, they work very well with the Sagittarius, Aries being the worst, and Leos being another great partner for them. Now we got the Geminis and the earth signs. Now Geminis don't relate as well with the earth signs as they do with the fire, but not as bad with the earth signs as they are with the water signs. All right, now let's start with the Geminis and the Taurus. So the Gemini and Taurus can make a strong relationship or relate very well together if they have enough in common. Okay, if the Taurus feels like the Gemini is somebody they could relate with, then they'll probably have a good relationship. The Taurus doesn't see the Gemini as somebody they could relate with, then they probably won't have a great relationship because the Taurus are very strong and good at relating with people and relationships. So it will really depend on the Taurus how well this relationship works. But the Gemini is always gonna know how to communicate with the Taurus. Now let's talk about the Geminis and Virgos. Gemini and Virgos are actually another strong relationship because the Virgos are also very analytical and data-oriented people, right? So they're gonna always have something to talk about with the Gemini. Geminis and Virgos are actually, again, one of the strongest connections in the zodiac. And lastly, we got the Geminis and Capricorns. All right, now these two will really only get along if it's about business or business oriented, right? Capricorns really don't like wasting their time. They're not as playful as the Gemini. So the only way this connection works is if the Gemini is business oriented. Well, if they don't have time to play, if they're really serious Geminis, then they could get along good with the Capricorn. But if not, then the Capricorn may be turned off by the Gemini. Like the Taurus, we would just shut the Gemini down, and Gemini could try to communicate with a Capricorn, but it won't work like it will with a Taurus. So overall, Geminis do best with the Virgos, then the Taurus, and then lastly the Capricorn, right? So that's really how the Geminis relate with the earth signs and all signs. Peace.